excited to see all you guys here as well. To my left, I have designer and creative director June Ambrose, accompanied by Wish Atlanta's owner, Julie Hogg. Give a round of applause. Just to start off, you know how we have plans in life and how we go about doing our own goals. And so we always have an idea of what we want for ourselves. And so I want to ask, what is your introduction to working in this industry?
What was my introduction?
Yeah.
I started off working at a record company. Well, let me go back actually, because I was a theater major, so I studied musical theater, and costume design was my minor. And when I didn't get I thought I was going to be an actress. I feel like I'm still playing many roles in life, but when I didn't get the part, I would design the piece. So my first piece was Antigone from the Greek mythical Antigone. It was a period piece, which was great, and I didn't know where I was getting up, 5 and 6 and 10 years later when I did that, but it really kind of helped me to understand character development. And understanding character development, I think, is a big part of the puzzle. I think that it really adds to the idea of what style is, because you're storytelling and you're developing. And when you think about your own personal style, we are, developing our character every day from inception all the way up into our now lives. And I started in the record business, in the music business, when artist development was very focused on. And I started specifically in black music. So I was working at Uptown Records, which was like the home of, Puffy and Mace and Mary J. Blige and Jodeci, and a lot of you were probably not even born, or you were probably sperm cells. And that's why I kind of just took note that there was an opportunity to help develop some of the artists and create their looks, and think about it from the same lens I thought about developing theater and film and costume design. So I brought that ideology and theory to to the music space. I also, it was really nice to see David Mays here, who I was at the Source magazine, after I left interning at this record company. When I was styling for the record company, I wasn't interning. My path was so different from what you would experience now. I mean, this was 29 years ago. So it's completely different in how I got to where I am today. I think what's not different is the fact that you have to sacrifice and work really, really hard, and be super, super passionate and dedicated and relentless, and trust yourself and be talented in order to sustain and make an impact. I didn't focus on the accolades. I didn't focus on someone telling me I was great. I focused on the art, and I think that that's the most important thing. If any of you out, to me, you all look like artists to me. I look out into this audience and I see creative humans, and I think that if you focus on your superpower and your talent, no matter what space you are in your career, it will come through and shine, and you will win. You keep score of the things that you are contributing and that you are giving to the universe, that you're giving to others, that you're paving a way, the shoulders that you're standing on. Keep score of that. And that's really what this is about. It's bigger than me. This collection is just a platform for me to have, a voice, and be able to kind of amplify conversations that we aren't having and that we should. So I want to take every opportunity to say how grateful I am, and how I'm doing this because I see, I want to leave this, this place in a better way. I want everyone to look through the colorful eye lens that I looked through growing up as a child. I'm still curious. I still am, I still have nervous energy when I'm working on a project. I still, I think to be infinitely curious is how you discover yourself over and over and over again. And I think that's what style is about too. Being playful, taking risks, taking things out of context, not asking for permission, taking sportswear and flipping it upside its head. And that's what I did in the world of music video. That's what we get to do in the world of editorial. I pushed the limits a lot when I worked at the Source magazine, and Dave could tell you, I'm putting him on the spot right now, but it was a different time, and I look at what's happening now in the music industry, and it's because of the things that we did then. I think it afforded the creative privilege, and it laid the groundwork for what's happening in the industry now. So I probably answered the question way too long, and I'm sorry. I'm very long-winded, but I know that I want to be present. I want to take the opportunity to tell you guys as much as I can in a very short period, so forgive me. So you can always just look at me and go, and I'll know I'm talking too much. I won't be offended.
How about you? What was your introduction?
So first of all, I want to say I'm just honored to have you in the store, and thank you for being here, and we're really appreciative of Puma and our family to host you. So how I got started, I started in the sports world. I worked for the Atlanta Hawks. I was in charge of the players getting to and from all of the player mandated events and making sure that we could tell their stories and their campaigns. From there, they implemented the dress code. I don't know, you guys probably are younger, but remember when the dress code was a mandate, the AI period of time?
That wasn't that long ago, was it? Was it? I've reinvented myself, I'm your age.
So I all of a sudden assumed the task of helping the players get dressed and the mandates that they had to wear sport coats on a plane, they couldn't wear jeans on the bench. So I became this like stylist of sorts to 6'9" players, so you can't just walk in and find something. So that kind of opened up like, you know what, fashion is kind of my thing. Like I love to put things together and this is fun. So I explored a route to go to New York, leave Atlanta, and go to New York, and I started working for Tracy Reese, who that's why I have met June way back. Tracy is a good friend of June, and and so I credit her with teaching me the complete process of fashion and you can speak to that too, from the sketch to the store and all of what it takes to get things made.
To the tech pack, to the
first
round, the second round.
I was able to be a producer on the runway shows in New York, so I was calling models down the runway. This is not something I set out to do, but I got the experience
That's
to do
the fun
that.
part.
So it's like taking that journey and making all of that. And then when Lauren, who started Wish, when she reached out to me and said, you're from Atlanta, we have this opportunity, and I was like, oh my God, I shopped there, I got all my denim from there back in the day, and I was so excited to come back. And it kind of married both things, because you think of sport culture and fashion culture is Wish, and so now it's like a full circle to be here and to do things that go back into the past and reach for the future too. So
Yeah, that is honestly truly inspiring from both perspectives, from sport and then starting from like the iconic of Source magazine and starting the whole, I think, the movement of styling. And I feel like with the imagery with some of the world's most known figures in pop culture, how has your career translated into your work as a creative director at Puma?
I think is my mic on? I feel like you sound way better. And I feel like I have to project. I don't think my mic is on, right?
You're definitely loud.
Am I?
hear
Oh,
you.
Kenny, of course you said that as I'm struggling. Hi, Kenny Birds. I think that the same disruptive spirit that I had coming up in the music and fashion world is the same spirit that I brought to Puma when I was asked to launch women's basketball. I think that it takes a lot of audacity and gumption and fearlessness to actually, even attack something like that. Because you think about women's basketball as an underserved, space. It should be. We have to amplify and be there for, these amazing girl gangs. And I don't feel like I was seeing enough of the girl gang energy. It's a boys club, in the music business when I was coming up. And I was like, I would definitely love to, I like things that feel hard. And I think that when I can make a difference in something, I go after it. That's the white space that I always like to find. And when I came to Puma, I really wanted to not change who I was. I wanted to infuse that same energy and the idea of life as a sport. The fact that we're all playing a role in the game, and create a lifestyle kind of, conversation. So we're talking about on the court, off the court, and just because it's women's basketball doesn't mean that we can't make it really feel tangible. And I think that's the big part. You think, oh, I'm not an athlete, why would I be able to relate to a pair of gym shorts? So again, really kind of approaching things from a stylistic lens, from a wearable lens, from a disruptive lens, and really focusing on detail and elevation and creating a conversation that I think was really underserved when you think about sportswear. I think the pandemic, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, was kind of a good thing on that side. Not the lives that were lost, but the time that we were still, and that we could really kind of refocus, reimagine, and take, you know, I was literally taking account for everything. I was literally just collecting my thoughts, and really I was able to develop, you know, the collection during that time for the brand for the first time. And I think it was a great way to get started, because I could really focus on it.
Yeah. And I know you spoke on it before, but what does the Keeping Score title really truly mean for you and this collection?
You know, it's being accountable. It's, you know, I constantly love to compete against myself. I think the comparison is the biggest joy killer, but if you're competing against yourself, you can find it. You can find the joy in that. You know, it's such a great feeling trying to outdo yourself. And I think this also just, you know, being accountable. I wanna be accountable, but then I also wanna hold other people accountable. You know, when you think about Title IX, when you think about the things that you promised me, I want to hold you accountable for that. And I want to remind you that I worked for it, I'm worthy of it, I came for it, and I'm going to take it. Sometimes, you know, so it's like that kind of energy, and keeping score of all of your, you know, your wins, and every, you know, lesson, every loss is a lesson. I don't count those, I just take it for what they are, and I keep it moving. And keeping score just reminds me of my contribution, and it also reminds me of what I want to actually give back. So you gotta, you know, in order to give, you know, in order to get, you have to give. So that's what keeping score is about.
I love that. That is, like, I think that, like, defines what a collection is all about, and especially with women in the culture and working in the industry. And so I even want to follow up with, what has your experience been like as a woman working in music and fashion and sport?
Yeah, so starting in the world of sports and NBA basketball, it is very male dominated. I was only woman in my position for all 30 teams. I think that significantly changed at that time. And then moving into sneakers and streetwear, where there's not many women owners. Lauren was one of the first women in the world to open this boutique. So she had a vision way early on, and I feel honored to step in and run Wish today. And I think, you know, as we've seen the industry and the sneaker world evolve, you have more women designers, you do have a point of view. You're not sitting around a whole group of men that are trying to talk to the women through their lens and not through an actual female of what they experience. So it's growing, and I think that's just exciting to me. I want to make sure that that voice is always heard, especially in the business side of things too. To look at, you know, I think there's 5, you know, of our caliber accounts in the country. There's only 5.
That's not a lot.
So I want to see more stores open, okay? And I want them to be run by women, because I think there's such a space for that. So, yes.
She said that's the word.
They're just not on our street. But I think there's so much opportunity, and, you know, anything that Lauren and I can do to share what our experiences have been, we want to, for sure.
And as for you, what was your experience like in the music and fashion industry, or do you have any experiences?
I mean, it was a man's world.
Yeah.
You know, but I survived it. I think I was, again, you know, you have to, the integrity of who you are is super important. I didn't compromise the integrity of who I was, ever. And it was non-negotiable. And I followed my gut, I walked to my own beat, and I think that's what's super important. I wasn't, you know, I didn't allow it to change me. Knowing who you are is will be one of your biggest forces of survival. You know, having a true understanding of what you are capable of doing. And even when you feel like you're at your lowest, knowing that you can rise from, you know, the ashes and be resilient is what we were designed to do. And you just have to tap into that, knowing that it's just one day that will get better the next day. And every time I was disappointed, I found the joy in the sun coming up and starting all over again. And that's simply how life is. Every day counts. So that's how I approached it.
That's really cool. One of my most pivotal moments in my career was back in 2019 when I I worked with you on a video with Lizzo and Missy
Oh,
Elliott. Yeah, so I always say this in my interviews because that was one thing that changed like my life and how I wanted to go about styling or how I wanted to present myself, even as a black woman on stage or on a set. And so that kind of guided me into like how I should present myself, how I should talk on set, because I'm like, I manifested this. Like, I wanted this moment, and I finally got the moment to work with you, and then I got to see you actually, you know how they say when you meet your heroes, like sometimes they'll disappoint you, and you're like, what just happened? But like that didn't happen for me. Like it was like, oh, okay, like I'm about to get dressed when I go to set now, because I used to be a bum, like and stuff like that. So with that being said, it's just like, what is the most pivotal moment for you in your career, or experiences that you've had, or a perspective or motivation that you've had?
Yeah. Okay, let me just say this. It's good not to be an asshole, because full circle, I'm sitting across from this woman who could really make it hard for me right now. If I was an asshole, she could be really, this could not be good. So it's good, I always say you be nice to everyone, just be nice, it's free. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. What was the pivotal moment for me?
Yeah, what was that pivotal
I
moment for you?
think when I started to see the impact of my work on the streets, when I started to see the impact of like culturally how it was manifesting and how people started to carry themselves different, how people started to care, how young black men and women they paid attention to the little things, and they wanted to be eccentric, they wanted to be seen, they wanted to be finished, they wanted to win. You know, I would walk into retail stores and I would see looks that were emulated from things I designed for music videos. Like, there was so many, I would see it on the runways, I would see like, there was so many aha moments in my career. And, as we started kind of collecting some of my receipts and looking back at my body of work, we're just like, oh my goodness. I pinch myself because when you're in it, you don't realize that this is gonna change and shift culture. Because I know that I wanna do it for that reason, but you're not focused on that. You're just focused on like how to make it great. How to make people that look like you proud. And really, that was my motivation. How to make hip hop music, pop culture music. It is one of the #1 genres in the world. It started off as a very alternative genre. And all the fashion publications and people that used to look down at music video, people like, oh, you just do music video. And it's such a pretty woman, pull out your black card moment, to be celebrated, to have the most nominated music videos in MTV history, to be sitting there and standing there and looking at the body of my work being nominated the most out of any, designer. That's aha. That's ha-ha.
How do you reinvent yourself while still being your true self? Because for example, hip hop is 50 years old. Times change, rap is different, but you're still in the scene. So, what are some of the tips you could give?
I always tell people to think about who you want to become, and then also thinking about like purpose, right? Like, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Like you just named off a couple. You've had some great experiences, and you're a flight attendant. What is that lifestyle like outside of the flight? What are the things that make you feel that? And style is personal. You know what I mean? It's like something that it's emotional. It's something you have to feel. So it's like when you buy a suit that shoulder fits great, or you put on a pair of sweatpants, like these are my joints, I'm gonna buy 6 of them. You have to recognize that this is something that you can kind of own and start to build on that. If a blazer and a pair of sweatpants becomes your thing, you're discovering and reinventing yourself. But in order to do that, you have to kind of play with it and try it out. You have to have that time with yourself where you're having these moments of like taking things out of context and actually discovering what you can do with fashion. Because fashion is mute without style. But I say that, and when you find it, be consistent with it. That's how icons are born. When you think about Michael Jackson, he wore the same glove over and over again in the white shirt. He didn't do a whole lot of changes, but he was iconic with it because he figured out what worked for him. And then he evolved as a talent, like his music evolved. But he was still always iconic in that moment. So I would lend the same advice to a woman as well. So yeah.
Can we talk about what it means to be with Puma? We got June, creative director. We got Burns here.
Brought in by Jay-Z and Emery Jones and brothers. And we continue to bring family and partner with people that we've come up with and that we know that are super influential and iconic in their own way. And I think it's a good time to be part of the brand. I think a lot of great things are happening with the brand. Yeah, it's a good time to be. I'm having fun. You having fun?
I'm having fun.
Yeah, we're having fun.
Well, I love that we can end this off on a family note. I'm so honored and happy to be here once again. I want to thank you guys for taking the time out to answer some questions and also inspire, you know, this generation and the next generation ahead of us. And so I want to encourage everybody to come look at this collection, come feel on it.
Feel on it,
and-
buy it! I want you to feel it, I want you to buy it!
And so, yeah, I'm so happy.
And I'm keeping score.
Yes. And we are keeping score. So you guys can enjoy some refreshments. You can listen to some music a little bit more and buy the collection.
Yeah, I'm here, let's shop.